Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Bristol Town Council meeting of August 1st, 2018. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, everyone. We have so many distinct pleasures, but this evening, if you look behind us, we have representation from our fire department, particularly from Hydraulic Engine and Hose Company number 1. I'd ask you, gentlemen, if you could come up and join us and be on camera here. We'd like to recognize your company, your hard work. And if you would all allow me just a moment, I have a proclamation from the town. Welcome, gentlemen. And I'm going to read a few words from this. And one of the numbers is quite impressive. Whereas the Hydraulic Engine and Hose Company number 1 was formally organized July 22nd, 1843. For those of you doing the math, it's 175 years ago. Whereas its long-standing and venerated volunteer company is the oldest in Bristol and reputed to be one of the oldest of its kind in the country in continuous service. We're going to stop right there and give you a round of applause. They recently had a celebration of their 175th, but we, the council and the town of Bristol, thought it was infinitely important to recognize you, the officers, and all of the membership of the Hydes, and say thank you for what you do. It's impressive what you do, and as we often talk about with other departments, your department is often focused on when I and my colleagues are out of town, and others say, my goodness, you are truly fortunate, and truly fortunate because of the volunteerism and the quality of service. So we, the town of Bristol, signed by myself, Nathan Calero, the Chairman, Tim Sweeney, Vice Chair, Andrew Tiska, Councilman, Mary Perella, Councilwoman, Ed Stewart, Councilman, Lou Chirillo, Town Clerk, and Steve Contenti, our Town Administrator. Gentlemen, congratulations again. Congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations. Another 175, right? Another 175. Congratulations. Congratulations, young fella. Congratulations. Congratulations. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thanks again. If you're following along with the special recognition, it says right in the beginning there, it says Little League champions. They're not here tonight because they continue to be champions. They won the state championship, and they are on to regionals. They will be joining us soon. We want them to continue to find that success, but we'll probably see them sometime in September and share their already good news and potentially even better news. So we are going to start right off. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council. The first item on this evening's agenda is the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second with Mr. Chairman. I'd like to pull HH5 and HH7 for the end of the meeting, please.
HH5 and HH7.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is item A1. This is the submission of minutes of previous council meetings to July 11th, 2018.
Motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is the second reading for adoption of ordinance 2018-13. This is in amendment to the town code under the offenses and miscellaneous provisions section. It is a new section that deals with unruly gatherings.
So we've spent a lot of time having discussion about this. We've heard from multiple, well, yes, we have heard from multiple residents, one who represented more than a few people, to justify and the reason why this is in front of us this evening. So we definitely have that covered. What we wanted to talk about, this is the second reading for this evening. There are some changes that were made, and I'm going to reach out to our solicitor. I know that we spoke today at length in regards to a few things that I would call housekeeping, and then some clarifications, and then this council, I know, had a couple of questions. One in particular, we had received a email/letter from Mr. Raduca expressing some concerns of others also, and I know that we've addressed either all or most of those things in this updated version that was already advertised, but there was additional couple of questions. One of them was about the time frame and why it should work, but if you could, Amy, if you could share on what you wanted to suggest as changes.
Sure. So let me reiterate some changes that were made prior to the last meeting. So the version that you have in front of you tonight has some red and blue coloring, and the red and blue coloring indicates what was changed from first reading to second reading. And it is all changes of a housekeeping type nature. They don't change the basic idea of the ordinance, which is that if an unruly gathering occurs, the occupants and the owner will get a notice, essentially a warning, and then if another unruly gathering occurs within a certain time period, either the September to June timeframe or the June through August timeframe, then the occupants and the owner and anyone who attended the gathering are all subject to a fine. So that's the basic idea of the ordinance. What we have changed is, as you know, it was decided that unlike Narragansett, we will not be actually posting a sticker on the houses. It was felt that that was not going to work with the town. So we instead will be mailing the notice not only to the property owner but also to the occupants. So that mailing of the notice will function as essentially a warning that another police response to the property within a certain time period will result in a violation of the ordinance punishable by a $500 fine, which is the maximum that we can impose within our municipal court. So we also changed the language in section 17103B, and that's on the second page. We crossed out the term invited guest. This was one of the comments that Mr. Raduca has. It was felt that the term invited guest might be too limiting since most of the organizers of these parties don't exactly send out invitations. It's just, show up. So we changed the language to a person present with the express or implied consent of the resident or person in charge of the unit or whoever organized the party. And that removes that argument that, no invitations were sent. I didn't invite this person. Well, if they're there and you allow them to remain and the gathering is unruly requiring a police response, that person will be on the hook as well. So we changed the language, but we didn't really change the idea on section 17-104 that violation of the ordinance is punishable by a $500 fine against each responsible person. And as set forth above, those people are the property owner, the people, the occupants, the people who organized the party, if those are different people, and anyone who attended.
And you're saying that's set by state? I think the chairman mentioned it last council meeting, right? We can't go any higher.
That's the maximum ceiling that we can impose.
Okay.
So the other comment that Mr. Raduca mentioned, and we discussed this as well, was the idea that does it make sense to limit that time period where the warning will become effective? In other words, and that, again, was from the Narragansett ordinance, which has been reviewed and blessed by a federal appeals court, that a party taking place from, in September, if it happens again during the school year, then that will trigger a violation. But if you remove that limiting time period, you'd effectively be holding a different group of people responsible So if, one group of occupants has a party in January and then there's another party in September, it may be true that the landlord is still the same, but the tenants are likely different, because most of these houses, I think we all know from our own experience, there's nothing that says college student in this ordinance, but I think we know, and we have added a provision requiring notice to the Dean of Students at Roger Williams University. That is a large source of the problem here. So the thinking is most of the lease periods coincide with either the school year or the summer. So that's the idea behind yes, it may be giving kind of a second chance to a landlord, but the idea is provide notice, and then if it happens again during that period of time, then a violation is triggered. We discussed the idea of potentially putting the enforcement on separate tracks so that, all right, maybe it doesn't make sense to hold a new group of tenants responsible for a party that took place before they moved in, but if the landlord is the same, maybe it does make sense to hold the landlord responsible. We haven't drafted it that way, so the version that you have in front of you does not have that dual track of enforcement, but if the council feels that is more equitable, we certainly can change it. The idea was, one, to keep things as simple as possible for the town enforcing it, and two, also to use the model that has been approved, but in my opinion, that's a completely valid change if that's the council's preference.
And we can make that change upon this motion tonight, and that will go in, because, thank you for explaining, because I totally agree that I don't think the clock should get reset for the landlord. I think we can allude to the students, the majority of, as you said, specified in every state with university towns, but I think we have to approach this, if we're going to do this, we should be stringent, that the landlord, whether it's one group of people and then a new group of people, he's setting a pattern, and he has to be accountable. So I am going to be in favor for that, if we can do that, for that dual track, because it does make sense. If someone doesn't return, how are they going to be penalized a second time anyways, because they're not even going to be here. But also, I just want to cover it so we cover that, like you said, you might say that it's students, but any person could come into any town and they just portray, they have a group of friends that they party all the time. So you got to include every person. So we're trying to just make it sure that all our neighborhoods are safe away from anyone who has this idea that they're going to have a party house. So
I'm absolutely for dual track. I do believe that the issue homes continue to be issue homes, and sometimes it's same people that are renting, sometimes it's not. And I believe that it would be appropriate that it be a year there. I think that's a good time, and if I don't know what my colleagues think, but I think for the landlord end of things, 1 year from first issue, for lack of a better term, and have that dual track, and make sure that those houses are kept quiet. And the whole idea behind this ordinance is we don't want to give a $500 fine. We don't want to do community service because we don't want a problem. And I don't know if I made this point clear at the last meeting, but it's really important to know that these problems are absolutely horrible for that area, but we don't have this all over town. There isn't hundreds of homes or 50 homes, but really clear, the ones that are a problem are a problem. And it's not fair, and you should be able to go home and have a quiet home. And we're all reasonable. We understand that people are going to make noise, people are going to have fun, and we're okay with that. And people should have fun, whether it's a student or whatever, but we need to be respectful. And when respect is lost, that's where this is going to come into play, in my opinion. So to be clear, this is not the be-all, end-all, the silver bullet, because there is no such thing, but I believe this will get us a long way. So what's my colleague's thoughts in regards to what we've talked about thus far?
Can I just ask a quick question? I'm just a little confused about the way I heard Amy and Ed mention the two tracks and the way I just heard the chairman. So I agree that there should be two tracks, and that I think that there are a handful of landlords that own lots of problem houses. And I don't think that there should be necessarily a year limit on them. I think it should be ongoing. If they're going to continue to rent, they shouldn't start the next September or the next, whatever year we put it on as starting all over again. I think that those violations need to accumulate, because to a lot of these people that are making thousands and thousands of dollars a month, $500 is nothing. They will just blow that off. They'll either pay it or they just will ignore it, especially if they're out of state. Now, the unfortunate truth is that two of our biggest culprits happen to be local or local families, and which is very, I always say this when I think that, very disheartening to me when I realize that. So I don't think we should give them any time limit on the landlords, and I don't know if that was your intention or not when you talked about it. I do agree with the 2 tracks. I do think the kids, different groups are coming in, and as I mentioned to you on the phone, I think there's also this whole situation where, one kid who's a party-hardy kid might have new roommates, and then, how do you make sure that they're not all getting off the hook because now, 2 of the 3 or 3 of the 4 or whatever are new, and the other one who's causing all the trouble isn't. You know what I mean? And I don't know if there's any way we can do that. It may be too complicated, but I just don't think there should be a time limit on the landlord. So I would like you to just explain what
Amy,
your thought was.
Just so we're clear, it's my understanding that the 1 year would not be 1 year and then it's reset. It means 1 year from the last issue. So if there's an issue, if you have a party and there's an unruly house and we have a $500 fine or whatever, then if it happens 6 months, that's within that year time, and that resets again and resets again and resets again. It's not if I have 7 parties, as long as a year goes by, I don't have to worry about it at 366 days, right? So it's if you're in violation, you're in violation within that time.
Yes, we can draft it such that a second occurrence within 1 year from the issuance of the notice would constitute a violation.
And to be clear, Mary, I'm
for the
not married to a
property
year, so if this council wants something else, that's fine with me.
I would definitely not do a year for the landlords. I would think if you're going to give them another chance, so if somebody learns their lesson, right? They get like 3-4 violations, and they really try hard, and a year or 2 goes by, and there's no problems, and then all of a sudden they think they did the right thing, and now there's a problem. Okay, maybe I could see it like 2 or 3 years down the road that they've tried, but I just can't see like 1 year when there's a good chance that the same students are going to be in the same place. Not everybody's leases, not everybody leaves in the summer, not everybody doesn't come back the following year, you know what I mean? So I
very
just think that's too
for myself,
lenient.
I'm flexible. So
I agree with Councilwoman Perella. When it comes to the landlords, we have to be more stringent, like I mentioned. So with that timetable, I agree with her. Also with the landlords, the notification, we had problems in the past. It will all be certified, so no one can say they never received any notice, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That wasn't in here, was it?
No, it's not in the ordinance, but our advice to the town, and I think the town's practice is any notice of this nature, whether it's a zoning ordinance violation, that's all sent by both regular and certified mail. So I don't think that needs to be written in, but if the council wants it in, we can certainly place it in.
I think it should be in because it would be easy. I'm sure we could show all the documentation for it, but, somebody would say, well, I never got it. I know there's, parts of the state that, for example, in the pension division, if you miss a notice by regular mail, they assume you got it, and there is nothing you can say or do, and it costs you a fortune. So I do think it needs to be explicit.
Okay.
Myself, that's my opinion.
other thoughts?
I'm ready to move forward with the ordinance. I think, we've heard from our community and our residents from all over the town, and it's definitely, we need to take a step forward on this. I just had a question on 17-100, public nuisance.
Yep.
We talked about this at the last council meeting at the significant segment of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I just think that leaves some room for wiggle room, and I was just wondering, maybe it's the surrounding area of that house, or just the kind of, you know what I mean? I don't know. Unless
Yeah.
you think, you're the expert, so you tell me, is there room for somebody to wiggle around that word, significant portion of the neighborhood?
That language, again, was from the Narragansett ordinance, which has been vetted and approved, and I know that the ACLU raised concerns about this one, just as they did in Narragansett and Providence and all the other communities where an ordinance of this nature has been proposed or adopted. In my opinion, that does not constitute an unconstitutionally vague term. That's intended to give the police some discretion, depending on what the neighborhood is. Are we talking about a dense neighborhood, a spread out neighborhood? So I think that I think that that's okay.
Okay.
So would the motion be under Section 17-101, subsection B, any notice issued to occupants, and then you would add subsection C, any notice issued to the property owner, and then do the verbiage accordingly to make the dual track specify the difference between the property owner and the occupants?
Yes.
I just want to make sure, so when we do the motion, because we're going to do the motion, if we're going to go
Please.
forward with this.
We'll also have to change some language in Section 17-103, which does reference those effective periods, but we'll have to change that a little bit to, again, make clear that it's dual tracks for enforcement for landlord and occupants.
Okay.
It may be wise if you're still going to allow second reading.
Yes.
Okay. It may be wise if you just, in your motion, make that the language would be per the discretion of the solicitor, because I think if you get too specific and they find another couple of words somewhere else, it won't be able to change that effectively. So I wouldn't be that specific about the language. You know what it is that you want to accomplish, which is the dual track. That should be part of the motion, but not necessarily to say exactly how it should be changed.
Okay.
Right.
And 2 years is what, is everyone comfortable with 2 years?
Sure.
3 for the landlord,
I think 3.
3.
I'm fine.
So is there a motion to that effect?
So I'm going to make a motion that we move the ordinance presented here tonight with substantive changes to Section 17-101 as discussed here in the minutes, and also Section 17-103 for the language to be per discretion of the solicitor, but the findings and discussion of this council did say the difference between occupants and property owner, and that being that the property owner is specified as 3 years, and also any documentation or mailings for notice to the property owner occupants will be certified mail in those subsections of this ordinance as well. And as like any ordinance, we can always revisit it as we tell our community. And also, I would like to thank the community and the residents for giving your feedback, because that's important, because this is for our community and for all of you. So that's my motion.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman, members of the Town Council, this is the item D1. This is the petition of Elsa Ramirez for the Bar 3129 State Street, requests council consideration for dancing and entertainment license. You have recommendations provided by the Town Administrator, Fire Chief, and Chief of Police, all to approve.
Based on the recommendations, I make a motion to approve.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in...
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I just saw that it was on, I didn't see a lot of detail until I read through the police report, and it said that they were looking just for Sunday afternoons. Is this limited? I know that, can we limit this? We can't limit it to certain days, right? Or can we?
It's every
Put
other Sunday.
restrictions on this. Pardon me?
Every other Sunday, I believe.
Every
right?
other Sunday, yeah.
So you're allowing this specifically for every other Sunday?
No, I'm asking Amy if we can do that.
That's at your discretion.
Okay, it is.
Because our regular Sunday, our regular dancing entertainment licenses do not include Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think you should be specific in your motion that you're allowing per the schedule that they provide, which includes Sundays.
So I heard a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion?
Per the town clerk's clarification? As amended?
Everybody all right with that?
We can
All-
always come and change it.
Sorry?
So they can always come in if they need it more.
Absolutely.
Accessible, right.
Absolutely. Okay, so we had an amended motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is the petition of Raymond Green, 9 School Street, requests council consideration for accessible parking space in front of his residence. This is the first reading.
Motion, this constitutes the first reading.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is from the Code Compliance Coordinator. He's requesting the removal of existing 2 and 1/2 hour parking spaces in front of 149 Bradford Street. You have a recommendation by the Town Administrator and Chief of Police to approve. The motion would be to refer this to the Town Solicitor to draft the appropriate ordinance language.
So moved.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next is from Scott Christopher, 116 Hopeworth Avenue, and others, requesting council consideration for a 4-way stop intersection at Hopeworth Avenue and Berry Lane. You have a recommendation provided by the Chief of Police to deny.
Chief, I know we have the recommendation. I probably do this all the other time. I know it's in front of us, but could you speak a little bit on this? Your recommendation speaks to the current traffic. Help me, please.
Federal State Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Device. What I will tell you is we looked at it in our preliminary information data gathering was that we deny it. However, I did look at it a little closer, and if possible, I would ask that we continue it till the next meeting. And let me assign the lieutenant to put the traffic message board out there to gather a little bit more data so we can work with. I know this has come before us in that area, and I'd feel a little bit more comfortable with another meeting with some more data to work with. So if you don't mind, I'd ask that you continue it.
Absolutely.
Chief, when I was talking to some of the residents in that area, they were saying that the stop sign would be great, but they understand that if the stop sign doesn't make sense due to your explanation, is there any way we can slow down that traffic in that area? Just so it's, because they come down that hill and they just pick up the speed and just go, 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 you know what I mean? And then or they zoom up and they just really hit the gas right in that area.
Right.
So it's more of a controlling speed more than...
Yeah. As I said to you, with a little bit more time, I've instructed the lieutenant as of yesterday to assign patrol officers down there for some high visibility to actually gather some information just by viewing the vehicles traveling there. As you know, I mean, that's not a throughway, so I would say that 95% of the vehicles going into that area are residents that live there or visitors. It's not like they can go anywhere else. So I think with a little bit of information, and let's look at it, if there is a way of putting a sign there for any reason, then maybe we'll look at it that way. But with 2 weeks, I think 2 to 3 weeks, our next council meeting,
Our
I
next
think I'll
meeting
have
is
better
the-
information for you.
August 22nd, if my memory's correct.
Okay, 3 weeks?
Yeah.
Motion to continue F3 to August 22nd Town Council meeting.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
The next item, Mr. Chairman, of the Town Council has been withdrawn by the petitioner.
So we'll receive and file, Mr.
Yes, yes, sir.
So
Motion to
moved.
receive and file?
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is item I1. This is the correspondence from Rick Sackvivit, P.E., Branch Chief of the Engineering Services Branch, Federal Insurance and Mitigation Administration, FEMA, regarding the revision to the town's flood insurance rate map.
Diane, could you just share your thoughts on this? I believe this to be positive for what started off as this and then the surrounding neighbors. Is that right on this?
Well, so this is a revision to the FEMA flood map to change the zone on the corner of State and Thames, the southeast corner, where the proposed development is going through the application process. It's to change the flood zone on that property from a velocity zone to a 100-year flood zone, which has a lower base flood elevation. And so the application was submitted by the developer of the property, and it got approved. So this is really just to inform you that has taken place, and
How does that affect the surrounding neighbors, or does it?
it would affect the surrounding neighbors in a positive way if they also submitted an application to FEMA to revise the flood zone for their properties. If
Okay.
it really affects the properties that are seaward of this property, closer to the harbor. That was something that was done, for example, when Stone Harbor was developed. They petitioned to remap the flood zone, and surrounding neighbors, were able to also petition, because it was, if the flood zone isn't going to come beyond a certain point, then it's going to benefit other people. So the FEMA flood zone mapping, and they've updated them. They're a little bit better now in terms of modeling, and they used to use data from prior storm events. Now they're a little bit more detailed, but they are still somewhat general. So if property owners have engineered data that's more specific to their particular property, they can petition FEMA to consider that and change the flood zone, and that's what this developer did. And if other people in the neighborhood want to do the same there, it might be more favorable to them as
You're
well.
saying lower flood insurance rates for them, if it's
Correct.
a little less. Yeah.
Correct.
So it's favorable.
They were all given notice during these procedures? People that this would affect, or
So it
in
only
essence?
affects, this particular revision only affects the property owner who applied for this
Okay.
revision. It doesn't affect anybody else.
Okay, that's what I wanted to
Right, right,
make clear.
right.
Do people all know that own the property or down in that area? Do they all know that they can petition the state for that? Or FEMA, sorry.
I don't know, Mary. I mean, it's when the engineers do their work, they sometimes inform other people, because if the property that they're studying is, beyond, and there's other properties that would be captured, they do let them know that, hey, you might be able to apply to do this, but it's really up to them. And I don't know specifically what other properties would be in that situation based on this revision.
The one thing that I just find interesting, this is more of a comment, is the timing of this. It would have been helpful, I think, in making the decision of the other boards to know this, because, and maybe it still is because it's in front of zoning, because a lot of their argument for density and so forth was because things had changed in regards to the floodplain, and from when, they were first approved years ago to now. And
So the boards were very aware of this. In fact, it was a condition of the planning board, because the design
Oh, it
of
is,
the
okay.
project was based on this expectation that this would happen.
okay.
They had done the preliminary engineering work to know that it was probably likely to get approved, so they designed everything
Okay.
that way.
So-
So they were
That's good
aware.
work.
So Diane, if a resident or business owner or whatever around that vicinity wanted to, what would they do to take the next step to petition FEMA?
I would
Get
say
an
they would-
engineer and-
Yeah, they would need an engineer, and I would say that it would probably be beneficial and
Maybe if they all
helpful.
banded together kind of thing? or-
Well, I think what they should do is reach out to the engineer who did this project.
Okay.
And see if his data could in fact be used to support their application.
Okay.
And then they could take it from there.
Because flood insurance is quite expensive, so
It is.
it would seem like the long-term benefit is worth a little bit of homework. So-
Right.
Okay.
And I also just want to remind the council, just because you're on the flood insurance costs to residents, and we do participate in the community rating system. We just got reclassified. We're now a Class 8. We get 15%. Every policyholder in the town will see a 15% reduction on their flood insurance, and that went into effect in May. And
That's wonderful.
so, yeah, and we are waiting for the FEMA. They're supposed to come and make a presentation to the council, and they just haven't done it yet. So we're waiting
Is
for
that
that.
because we've done mitigation or
Yes.
things like that?
Yes, it's really kind of cool, because we're getting a lot of credit for things that we do normally, like soil erosion, runoff pollution prevention, the open space acquisitions, especially open space that happens to be in a flood zone. We get credits for that. So a lot of the things that the town is already doing, we're allowed to take credit for, and then when you get certain points, all the points add up, and then when you reach a certain threshold, that's when your discounts start kicking in. So we've been
Fantastic.
really fortunate
Excellent.
to get
That's
really,
awesome.
really good benefits from things we're already doing.
And what is the maximum that, like, can you get 25% discount? Or
You
what is the
can,
max and-
I think we are capped at the 15% because some of the criteria is with regard to some state building standards, and because of the state building standards, because of the way they're written, we're at the threshold. We can't go beyond it at this point, but the state is aware that communities want to do better, and they're looking at that as well.
good.
So,
great.
yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So Lou, is it receive and file on this? Yes.
Motion to receive and file.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Diane.
The next item, Mr. Chairman, members of the Town Council, are the individual council member agenda items, beginning with the chairman.
So I have
Mr.
a-
Clerk,
I'm sorry.
did you
Yes.
want me to discuss HH5 and HH7? Okay, thanks.
I'm still taking them in order.
Okay.
HH5, what was the other one? I was just coming on.
HH5 and HH7.
I think he was going to say after.
I would like, if everyone's okay, if we could just go through all of the agenda items, we'll hit the prerogatives at the end.
Okay, sure. I'm just,
It's just real quickly, HH5 is the Bristol County Water Authority fiscal year 2000 annual report. And we're very fortunate of our board of directors that serve for us on the board for the Bristol County Water Authority. When we receive this annual report, we know that they have their own audits and company. I think, alternate water redundant source is important. We have to get to that point where we get it. But more importantly, these reports from Bristol, I believe, with my colleagues and how we keep an eye on things. I'd just like to refer this to our treasurer to get another set of eyes on certain things in the report for the healthy fiscal finances of the Bristol County Water Authority going forward. If we, at your leisure, I'm not saying, mandate a certain time. So if we could just do that, Julie, I would appreciate it.
Anything in particular you want me to focus on?
Maybe just some outliers of, liabilities of their pensions, just certain things of their forecast, their bonds, things that we talk about when we have our discussions with our auditing and whatnot. So if we could just have a second pair of eyes on this, so we know what's going on.
Sure.
Okay.
And I can reach out to the Bristol County Water Authority for any clarification or...
Yeah, or one of our directors, which we thank them for their time and whatnot, and especially Mr. Sylvia. He's been under the weather, but Frank Sylvia is doing very, very well, so we wish him much great health at this time. So
Do you want a motion, Ed, to refer that to the treasurer?
that is my motion, to
there a
refer it to
second?
the
I'll second.
administrator and the treasurer.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And then HH7, I'd just like to thank Nicholas Marsilli and the Boy Scout troops for their fine job down at Clip Away for taking on that project. I know this council has been involved with Clip Away for some quite time, so maybe after it's all cleared out, we can finally take that visit as a council field trip. So,
It's supposed to be like the ribbon cutting.
the ribbon
know,
cutting.
Before you leave, you
So-
do the ribbon cutting.
So I just like to thank them for their fine job. Thank you. So receive and file with that as well.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
now for the chairman's prerogative.
Thank you. Two things. Black Ships Festival was July 13th through 15th. I think the administrator is going to elaborate a little bit more, along with our economic development coordinator, when it gets to the administrator's portion. But it was our first year for it. A wonderful event, well attended, and I was there with the administrator and the chief and representation from the police department and other departments for the opening ceremonies at Independence Park, and it was just a pleasure. And one thing that stuck with me was Japanese culture is just so respectful, and I say that because in a time that we're in right now with particularly with politics, having it being massively disrespectful at some points, it was a pleasure to see the respect, not from and to, but from everyone. It's something that I think we can take a lesson from. Let's put it that way.
Civility.
Civility. Well put.
Yeah.
I'm going to end on a very sad note. The town of Bristol, its residents, and everyone, our hearts break for the family that lost their little boy. Obviously, we can't speak of anything because there's an ongoing investigation, but I thought it was important that my colleagues and I and everyone here express their heartfelt sadness for their loss, and know that the people of Bristol are with you and thinking of you. Thank you.
Mr. Sweeney.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that the 5th annual Harbor Festival is coming up on August 18th. It's a wonderful event. It kind of celebrates the Bristol Harbor Master's Office, the Harbor Office, and the town of Bristol as a whole and its local fishermen. I've been volunteering at it for a long time, and it's got a lot of great events. All my colleagues, I see all of you guys there, so we all know it's a great event. I know you guys all help out and volunteer as well. I just wanted to let everybody know that there's a Blessing of the Fleet at 1:30. There's a stuffy competition at 3. And there's going to be live music, some tours on fishing vessels, and the highlights is traditional little boil. So, and there'll be one seating from 5 to 7, and it's $20. So you can go out to the harborfest.com and you can buy your tickets there, or you can go down to the Harborfest office, and we have tickets down there. Thank you. Have a good night.
Mr. Tiska.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I was approached by a business owner in town, a new business owner, and we had a good discussion around the tangible tax that is charged here in the town of Bristol. And I know this is an item which has been percolating a little bit around some conversations. I know it was brought up during the last budget cycle, and I'd like to get the administrator's update on it because I know he's been working on it. But in general, I think that there's an opportunity to look closer at the tax, what it brings in, who it's charged to, how it's done, so that we can understand better. So first, I think it would be helpful to add an agenda item to next meeting to get maybe a briefing, if you would, on the tax, everything about it, how it's charged. You know, for many of you, you don't know if you don't have a business, but you fill out this archaic form about all the stuff you have, and it's, I think it's difficult to enforce and maybe not equitable across all businesses. But regardless, we should learn more about it, and then we should consider ways that we can make some changes without significant financial impact in the town. I think there's a huge upside to take steps to demonstrate that we are business friendly. And I think by hitting this tangible tax head on early before the next budget cycle is a way for us to do that with little impact to the town and a huge impact in a positive way to our business friendly culture here. So with that, maybe Steve, you could provide some more background on that.
What's that? Ms. Perella.
Yes, thank you. Just a couple of comments on what was already been mentioned. The Black Ships Festival was terrific, and all of the events, and the organizers were so pleased. They were just like thrilled to death with everything the way Bristol was so welcoming, and so they were so happy how it turned out. They said there was one of the most visited, like the Arts and Crafts Festival that they had, was busier than when they've had it in Newport. And then, I think their expectations, especially for the first year, were surpassed in spades, so to speak, and they were very, very, very pleased. So it was very nice to hear, and I think they definitely want to continue to have it here. I just wanted to mention, and maybe we can, maybe Tim, I know you're involved, the stuffy, I mean
Stuffy competition?
Yeah, the stuffy, the whole thing. So
Harborfest.
Yeah, the Harborfest, yeah, that's what it was. So Mosaico had for Wood Street, they had the stuffy competition. I don't know if you went to it or not, but they were about 10 10 businesses, 10 restaurants. A couple of them were from Warren, and the rest were from Bristol, mostly along Wood Street. And Wood Street Cafe, the Lobster Pot did some stuffy stuff, and a number of others. And some of them were so terrific, and I said, why don't you guys enter the competition?
Right.
And I think it might be good if we were to reach out, because on this stuff,
Okay.
as you know, on the businesses side, where we have been judges in the past for that, there's maybe only 2 or 3 restaurants
Correct.
that come forward to do it. And I don't think a lot of people are aware of it. So I've been trying to tell people as I see them that we're at that particular event. Or I could pass it along if I just don't, right now I'm just referring to the harbor master's office as I see
Yep,
people
harbor master,
and ask. I don't know what the rules are for entering into that. If they don't have to pay or anything, right?
I believe there's a $20 fee that they have to pay, Home Chef Stuffy Competition. And then they have to go down and pick up their little nags and quahogs and all that stuff, like on the 16th, just before the competition. So
They're provided. They get that stuff.
Yeah.
From them? Okay. So I mean, I just think that was because that was a whole event that that stuffy contest up there, and I thought it was like a nice event up there, but it was a very busy weekend because it was the same weekend as the like that Father's Day event down at the Wolf Tavern. So there was just a lot going on in town. But I just wanted to mention that because there were some terrific, some very traditional, some a little different, and some
Yeah.
very creative
yeah,
stuffies there. So
definitely I'll reach out to
Yeah,
the
I can
group
I'll try to give you
make
I'm
sure
sh-
they reach out to all the local businesses.
yeah, I'm sure Diana Campbell can provide you with a list of the people that entered. I could just off the
Yeah.
top of my head, I'll just try to make a list too.
Yeah, no,
Right.
we have
From what
another
I can
meeting,
remember.
so I'll definitely bring up that.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you for your suggestion.
I think that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Stewart?
Well, once again, to the Hydraulian Company, 175 years, but I just want to take the time because it's such an honor to have them in our chamber at any given time. We have to be fortunate and thankful, and we cannot say it enough. That's why I would like to say it, that our volunteer firefighters, our men and women that step up every day for first responders, they're volunteers. They all have full-time jobs, and then they come home and they answer the call. And when they answer a call, they're putting their livelihood in harm's way, and they all have families. And I just want the community to know that we have to be mindful of that and thank them, and along with our police department, all our first responders. But just, I think sometimes we just say we have a volunteer fire department, we're very fortunate, but really realize that what they're taking upon themselves in a volunteer aspect of what they're doing, putting their life on the line. So, again, thank you to all the departments. Just like to share very quickly with the chairman and my colleagues on behalf of all of us and my family that our prayers are certainly with the family. And the most important and mindful thing that we have to think about is just to be there in support of family, friends, and neighbors for this family going forward each and every day. So you have our deepest condolences. And as well as, I believe, the Community Day, Chief, or Mr. Administrator, is August 18th on the Town Common for the children, for the Health Equity Zone. So just look at that calendar before the kids go back to school. It's a wonderful event and program. I'd like to thank Mike Davis, Sergeant Arms, Archie Martins, everyone who came out tonight, and everyone tuning in at home. Have a great evening.
Town Administrator, agenda items.
Thank you. Chris, did you have anything on the Black Ships Festival?
Yeah, I just wanted to say a little bit about it. First off, I just wanted to thank the council for your support in helping to get the Black Ships Festival here in Bristol this year. Steve's support, talking with him earlier on in the discussions. It was a phenomenal weekend. We were very fortunate to have the rain clouds pass over us. So, Saturday at Independence Park, the Arts and Crafts Festival, all around positive vibes from attendance as well as the local merchants who chose to participate. I'm looking forward to next month having a report to present to you on some of the findings on how it impacted the town here. And then for attendance to the festival, this is really your opportunity to tell us how it went. So if you go to the Town of Bristol Facebook page, you can actually go and complete the survey until this Friday. So definitely encourage everyone to go on, evaluate it, tell us how it went, and I look forward to coming back next month or later this month and giving you guys a little bit more details on it.
I understand that part of the discussions are moving the date out potentially into maybe into August, so we can. I understand we have a big parade here. I forgot what day it is, but pushing it out so we have more events out.
So as Mary pointed to, the Japan America Society was extremely grateful for all of the help that we did to make this year's festival one of the best they've ever had. They are receptive to pushing it out towards the end of the summer and possibly early September for next year's event. So we look forward to making it bigger and better than ever.
Chris, you're learning fast. That's the Bristol way, bigger and better.
And he got a grant for the study.
Yeah. I did fill out my survey.
Our deepest sympathies to the family and a little boy that was lost. It's been a very sad week since last Tuesday. And as the chairman stated, the investigation is still ongoing. However, I would like to state some facts that I believe we can speak about. First off, recently the town of Bristol did do some brush removal on Papa Squash Road. That was the town of Bristol that did that, and that in no way is implying that that was a cause of this tragic accident. But I believe it was the right thing to do. It was on the west side where we cleared some brush and some small trees, and the purpose was to improve visibility from Papa Squash if you're traveling east towards Hope Street. Again, I don't believe there's any bearing on that accident, but I believe it was the right thing to do, along with other intersections throughout the Bristol portion of the bike path. I do want to state also that I have spoken with Director Alviti, Director Coit from DEM. In fact, Director Alviti, a couple of times today I spoke to him, and he's very, very, I know this is one of his top priorities, and he's very compassionate, understanding, and I do believe that the DOT is going to come through for the community, making it safer. In a very measured way, but he did stress, and I totally understand that the accident report is still not complete, and that is very important. It's critical to the assessment that's going to be done. I did express one of my concerns and other residents that 6 months for a study is unreasonable, and he outright stated it is not going to take 6 months. For the entire 200 intersections throughout the state of Rhode Island, it may be 6 months, but he said, he assured me personally today that a couple of days after the report being released, the accident report, which is crucial, he would allow our officials to be involved with the study, with our input, within a couple of days after the police accident report being released. And again, that report involves reconstruction being conducted by Rhode Island State Police. I'm not sure if those temporary signs are going to stay. He did state that there were traffic safety experts that went out. They looked at them, and at this point in time, considering the sensitiveness of this, they said they can stay. They're not posing a safety hazard. So that was their decision. It's important for me to state as a fact that Papa Squash Road is a state road. The bike path is a state bike path, and we don't engineer and we don't maintain traffic control devices on state property or state highways. A local street is another issue. But again, I think the outcome after the review is done, we will have a safer bike path. He already discussed some different options that we could apply if necessary. But again, It all depends on what the experts recommend, what the data shows, and what this accident report shows, and then we'll take it from there. But again, I just want to express our deepest sympathy to the family and to this, and our thoughts and prayers are with this young child. That's all I have. On other non-related issues, the boardwalk at Bristol Harbor is going very well. It should be complete next week, and I encourage all of our residents to go down and enjoy their harbor. We're doing work throughout town, our playgrounds. There are new chips delivered today on the town common. We're coming to a neighborhood park near you. And Hope and State, we're doing a small project there. Fire stations, I think 2 of them were being worked on today. So that's the state of the town. Thank you.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Good night, everyone.